All right, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. What I would like you to do is I would like you to close your eyes, and I would like you to think of the last time you served someone. Now you can count this as serving because you're definitely serving me right now, but I want you to think back further than that. What's the last thing you did for somebody else? Okay, I want you to keep that in your mind throughout the rest of this presentation. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is service? Now when I went to the dictionary, there was 30 or 40 different definitions for service. But the one that I would really like us to focus on is helping and assisting and doing work for others. This is the main focus and the definition of service that I want you to think of today as I can continue on. So do we really have time for others? With our busy days and helping our own kids and living our own lives, do we really actually have time for other people? The question is, do we not have the ability to not have time? That's the important thing. Do you want to know a secret? This is one of the main secrets I'd like you to know. Serving others has positive health benefits for you. It makes a difference on your body and who you are when you serve and do other things for others. So one of the things I found is that it lowers your stress. Now, I will admit to using this one quite frequently, actually. When I'm having a bad day or having a really hard time, I like to go and serve and help other people. It lifts my mood, it lifts my spirit, and I quit thinking about my own problems. So I actually use this one for me personally quite often. The other thing is it has health benefits for you. Your heart, you have a healthier heart. Those who serve have been shown that they have a healthier heart throughout their life. The other thing that it does is it increases your immune system. Now, I really loved this one and found it was interesting because I think of all the doctors and the nurses and the teachers who work with children and other people constantly, people who are sick, and they have such strong, high immune systems. It's pretty amazing. So a couple weeks ago, I went to this conference, and it was called The Power to Be, and it was one of the most amazing conferences that I have ever been to. And there was all these inspirational leaders there, amazing people. One of the people, she had been called by a friend, and they had said, hey, I've heard about this new thing called the internet. They shipped over to California for a while, and a year and a half later, Steve Jobs knocks on the door. We have people who have worked for Facebook and helped create that main setting. We had people who were from Harvard who graduated doctors. We've got your lawyers. We've got your major book authors. I mean, there was some amazing people in this presentation. But what I found most interesting about this presentation is all these people who had risen to the very top in all of their fields and who were so successful, they constantly talked about how they would serve others and how by serving others, it helped them become better as well. So one of the main people I thought about was Mother Teresa. Do small things with great love. Service does not have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a big time commitment or a lot of money. It's just little things. The next thing that I thought of was Martin Luther King. His whole life was about making the world better for others. It wasn't about him, it was about everyone else. What are each of you doing for others? So how much of a difference do we really make in other people's lives with the things that we do for them? How much do we actually make? So this is one of my favorite stories. This is called Pending Coffee. And there was a young man who was visiting Nepal's. And he went to a small little coffee shop. And he was sitting there, and a man came in, and he ordered, and he said, I would like 5 coffees, 2 to go, 3 pending. He paid for his coffees, took the 2 coffees, and left. And the man looked over and said, hey, what's a pending coffee? And the waitress smiled and just said, just sit around for a little bit longer, you'll see. So he kept watching, and people would come in. Some people would buy a couple meals, but only eat 1. Some people would pay for more coffee. And a little bit later in the afternoon, an old man came in and meekly went up to the waitress and said, ma'am, do you have any pending coffee? And she smiled at him, and she smiled at the visitor and said, yes, sir, we do. What an amazing thing. This is pennies, this is change, this is a little bit that they were able to do. And those who needed the help most were able to be taken care of. Now, they didn't know who was serving them, and the people that had been serving didn't know who they were serving. But the point was, just these little things made such a big difference in these people's lives. I absolutely love this. The other story that I want to talk about is the soldier. So there was a nurse, and she saw an anxious, tired young Marine. And she went up to him, and she ushered him back to the room, and she leaned over to the old man, and she said, "Sir, your son's here." And she had to say this a couple times before the old man meekly opened his eyes and could barely make out the soldier. He had recently had a heart attack, and he was heavily sedated. So all he could see was the outline of the Marine. And he reached out his hand, and the Marine went in and grasped it. His strong, tough hands took a hold of this old man's little soft hands. He held his hand all throughout the night. He offered words of love and encouragement. The nurse would occasionally come in and offer to relieve him, and the soldier, the Marine, said no, and he sat with him all night. And the nurse would come in occasionally, and he was oblivious, and he would softly speak to this old man all the way through the evening. By morning, the man finally passed away, and the soldier let go of his hand. He went to the nurse, and he let the nurse know that the man had passed away, and he waited for her while she did the few things that she had to do. She came back, and she was about ready to offer words of sympathy to him. And he said, "Ma'am, who was that man?" And the nurse was taken back, and she says, "Well, that was your father." And he said, "No, I've never seen that man before in my life." And he says, "I came here today looking for a Mr. Williams Gray to inform him that his son had been killed in Iraq today. Ma'am, what was this man's name?" And the nurse, with tears in her eyes, said, "That was Mr. Williams Gray." Little things. Now, that was a big time commitment, but it doesn't have to be big. It is the simple little things that make the absolute difference in people's lives. I love this. The soldier lost his leg. He goes daily to the different monuments, and he picks up trash. He's never been asked to do this. He just does this all on his own for the love of his country. But what he does is for millions who come to these monuments and see what beautiful grounds this is. It's absolutely amazing. Such a small little thing. The other thing I loved is saw the meter maid coming, gave you an extra 2 hours. What a big difference does this make? It's absolutely amazing. Just a small little thing again, but it completely brightened their day. So my question is for you guys, what does this mean? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for you? What does it mean for the world? Well, let me tell you this. There is no higher calling in this world than serving your fellow man. There is no greater contribution that you can do than to help those who are weak and in need. And there is no better satisfaction, I promise you, than serving others. I want to challenge you guys. I want to ask you. I want to impress upon you. Never, never suppress a generous thought. Thank you.